Our days are numbered. Guys, in today's video, I want to go with you over what I think is going to be the timeline and how the world is going to look from right now, going up all the way to the Jubilee year in 2028, 2029. I personally believe it's going to be a crazy time, but I'm also feeling that it's going to be an amazing time as well. And yeah, I want to go over the previous years and leading into where we are going to, and maybe we can get all a little bit wiser from it, and maybe it also can bring a little bit of hope for the future, because I really believe, guys, that we are standing in right in front of the biggest opportunities of our lifetime. And I also believe that many of us that are watching, probably, at least let me speak for myself, I'm really sick and done with how everything is going in the last recent years, or maybe even longer than years. Everything I wake up to in how the world is structured, how we are set up for failure, how we are being suppressed. I'm just really tired of it. I'm really sick of it. But I really believe there's an end coming to all of this. And that is what we are going to discuss in today's video. And I'm really optimistic, and I have to be honest that that's not always the case. There are moments that I also really don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I still have these moments. I gotta be honest with you, sometimes I do see things very much depressed and negative, but they don't carry that much emotional value, or they don't carry that much emotional baggage anymore. I have a lot of emotional energy when I'm in that other state, when I'm seeing what's going on, when I'm looking at the future in a positive way, which I will talk about in today's video. That carries with me a lot of energy and a lot of emotional baggage, which makes me very positive, because that's of course very important, right? So there is a lot of hope, way more hope than all the negativity combined, okay? But I just want to share with you guys that honestly, that I also have these negative feelings, and if you experience them, it's more than normal. But let's just feel them, go through it. And on the other side, there is again this feeling of picking yourself up after a rough day, and then just to continue working on your mind, working on yourself, working on a better world, and then we'll all get through this, because that's really the feeling we all need to have. That feeling when maybe you have experienced it sometimes, when you are really in the shit, and then at one moment you just let go. You just let go of all your old beliefs, your old pattern, your old maybe bad habits, and then there's some space suddenly that comes in. Space to improve, space to look at things a different way. And this process is exactly what's happening on a global scale right now. There's a collective process, and what we all probably experience on a individual scale. And I've experienced it a couple of times in my life as well, where I went down a certain path which was very unhealthy. I thought I enjoyed it based on my beliefs, right? And I just continued that path, and at one moment my body is just giving me a sign of stop. You can't continue to walk this path anymore. You have to do it different, right? And that doesn't come in a nice little conversation, right? Like, you should do it different. No, it comes with a big smack on your face. You are laying down on the ground, and your whole world that you thought was your world, which of course was your world in a certain time, completely collapses. Your mental structures are all completely collapsing. You are reborn. You are basically reborn in the same life, looking at life differently. But this is really what's necessary, and that's also what's happening on a big scale, because the old structures, everything that we know right now on this planet, they are all in the midst of collapsing. And that's also why you might feel a little bit depressed, and why you might feel not so hopeful for the future. But it is actually very hopeful, because this volatility that we are seeing right now, that we are experiencing, these negative emotions, we have to go through it in order to let the past behind us. It's very important. We cannot let the past behind us if it doesn't shake. Like, it's like this house built with cards, right? and you want to build a new house with cards that is more stable, more resilient, better, smiling, beautiful, right? You gotta shake the old plate to get all the cards down, and then we have a lot of space, and then we can just build something new. Okay, I've published a video on this channel talking about the Jubilee. Jubilee is something that's mentioned in the Bible. I'm just going to quickly explain what the Jubilee is. Well, it's kind of like cyclical patterns that happen in nature, similar as like summer, spring, winter. There are also these bigger patterns going on a human consciousness, on the way that we build and perceive this earth, this universe that we are living in, right? So we are building something in a certain time, and then after a certain time we are looking different at these structures, so these structures collapse, and then there will be space for new structures. This is the same how spring, you know, spring brings up the seeds will grow in summer you can harvest, and then, you know, the autumn and winter comes to create space for new, give the soil some rest. So that's a Jubilee. And what specific is a Jubilee is actually, you have this in smaller cycles, in 7-year cycles. That's called a Shemitah. So every 7 years you have a Shemitah cycle. So if you combine 7 of these 7 years, you have one bigger cycle, right? That's called a Jubilee. So you can compare it with a cycle of a day consists of 24 hours, but a cycle of 30 days is 1 month. A cycle of 12 months is 1 year. So that's also how this works. So you have 7 years. Maybe you can even see it in 7 days, right? We have a week has 7 days. Then you have 7 years. And then you have 7 times 7 years, which creates that Jubilee. So let's go over some Jubilee periods from our age. Guys, this is going to be very interesting. So let's say the first Shemitah year or cycle was from 19, and I'm reading from my notes, guys, because yeah, it's a bit difficult to get it all from my head, although I know a lot already. Nevertheless, pardon me for my notebook. So we have 1979 to 1986, right? This was before I was born. But you gotta imagine a little bit how the world looked back then, right? That was the world I'm talking for myself, because maybe there are some people that watching right now that actually lived in these times. But the world was very different. The world was definitely more personal, right? People were more like personal, talking with each other. It was more traditional. There was definitely not much tech going on, but that was kind of the beginning of the tech. There were some tensions, especially United States and Russia, you know, fighting against each other within the Cold War. But that era ended in 1986. That Shemitah cycle ended in 1986. Then we had 1987, and the reason why I bring this up is because we are seeing this in every of these cycles. 1987 was Black Monday for the stock market. So for the people who are not familiar with stocks or with the stock market, Black Monday is a very famous time in 1987 where the stock market just had a very big crash. Very big crash. And I gotta say, the stock market doesn't crash that often. But there was such a big crash that they literally give it the name Black Monday. Then we had the second Shemitah cycle from 1986 to 1993. Well, this was in the area where I actually got born. That's the second Shemitah cycle. This is the end of the Cold War. We have this global perspective, this global freedom wave where people suddenly start to travel more, right? It becomes more normal to travel. People fly around the globe. It was not super normal that everyone was doing it, but it was becoming more normal. People really got a different perspective on life in general, and the traditional values, although they were still there from the previous cycle, they were already going down a little bit. You can definitely see this in the way how we got raised, right? How I got raised, for example. There's definitely I had way more freedom than, for example, my parents. That is, of course, because we are in a different zeitgeist, maybe you can call it like that, different time ghost. But of course, this ended as well with the 1994 bond crisis. So again, this Shemitah year also ended with a big crisis. There was a bond crisis. Maybe also, I'm just thinking of that right now, maybe also because bonds were more popular during those times, right? The stock market was probably less popular for the everyday people, but that came in the next cycle. 1993 till the year 2000, the third Shemitah cycle, sorry. This is where the internet era begins, guys. Internet, crazy. I remember when I had to go to the attic of my parents' house, and then you had to connect with internet through the phone line, and you had to wait for a couple of minutes until it was connected with this magic internet, and then there were no websites at all. You just had some websites, you hear them via, you heard them. Google was there already pretty early, I remember. But there was just not much. It was very interesting time. It was very exploring during that time. But that was, of course, a big change, guys. It was a very big change. The internet changed a lot. And although it came pretty slow, the adoption came pretty slow, especially when you compare it to crypto or artificial intelligence. The internet came a little bit slower. Nevertheless, it was very disruptive. It connected all of us in a certain way. Not too much in a personal way, maybe already helped to distance us a little bit from the real world and, you know, become more connected with this digital world, which is really big part of the age that we are living in, that we went through. As all human beings watching this, we went through a big transformation with digital connection. Right, your own digital connection, a lot of chemicals that are being released in your system based on, you know, a certain connection that is not directly real, but it's also not directly fake, right? Looking at a screen, for example. But of course, this cycle also ended with a very big crash. This one is known as the dot-com bubble pop. Again, for the ones that are not familiar with the stock market, well, internet had a lot of companies, right? We have Amazon, Google, and there were so many companies on the internet. Also very small companies like some small websites that went on the stock market. It was absolutely crazy, right? And then these stocks all went to a crazy height. And I think this is already a very small example of a wealth transfer. Why? Because the traditional money, the old money, was less important, because a lot of that liquidity, let's see money and liquidity a little bit as energy, right? Let's call it a little bit as energy, because that's basically what it is. Because when you have a lot of money, you can, for example, move things in the world, right? That takes energy, right? And if there is more energy, then the other energy becomes less valuable. That all makes a lot of sense. But of course, the internet brought up a lot of new millionaires and new billionaires that were new people on the planet. People with a different perspective. They got to know the internet early on, probably the more older people. They were looking a little bit as internet like, whoa, that's a weird change. It was less traditional. You know, they probably made less money on the internet. Of course, there were exceptions. Change is the only constant in this universe. Important to remember. But you can see already a shift here. You can see already a shift where a new group of people emerge with new technology, with a new way of doing things, right? And they getting a lot of money for doing so. It catches a lot of energy. It catches a lot of attention. This is important because later I will make the bridge to why that looks like in miniature form of what's going to happen next with our generation. But of course, this era also completely collapsed with the dot-com bubble pop. All these internet companies were extremely overvalued. Bam, they completely got a reset. Many of them bankrupt, failed, and just left the stock market. And of course, the winners, Amazon, Google, Facebook, they all stayed. Then we have the next one. The next one was the fourth Shemitah cycle from the year 2000 to 2007. This was a recovery. Here we saw a little bit of recovery, a lot of money printing going on, of course. What else did we have there? We have, I don't know, I don't have much to say about what exactly happens during those years. I've lived those years pretty consciously. I was a teenager back then. Definitely had a good time, but I also saw, especially late 2017, there was the story right around the globe, the housing market crisis. So again, guys, you got to imagine that all of the stock market, they don't really crash that often. It's not really common to see a massive crash. Generally, the direction of the stock market is to the upside, and the biggest reason for that is because there is money being printed, being generated, which devalues the money, right? The money supply, which increases the value of the stock market, not necessarily in purchasing power, but in numbers. Pure, simple numbers. Because if there's only $1,000 on the world, in this whole world, right, and you have a stock worth of $10, and then we just print another $1,000, then that stock automatically becomes $20 because the money supply is just doubled. But it doesn't mean that your purchasing power of that stock doubles as well, because that's often not the case. That's very important to note. So it's like kind of like an illusion of increase in wealth, while purchasing power is not that different. But again, that one ended with a big crash, housing market crash, very big thing, doesn't happen normally. It happened again, in specific during that end of that Shemitah cycle. And that's very important, because all of these corrections that I'm talking about happen on the end of the Shemitah cycle. And you don't have many corrections outside of these cycles that are so severe as the one that I mentioned in today's video. Then we have 2007 to 2014, the fifth. Again, not much to say about the years. I've been through that. Of course, we got new mobile phones, internet became more common. You are 24/7 connected, smartphones came. This era ended as well with a big sell-off. 2015, 2016, big market sell-off. Again, reset, right? That's what we are seeing all the time. Then 2014 to 2021, that one was a very crazy crazy cycle for me, especially personally. This was the rise of crypto. We have seen a lot of crypto rise during the time. It started slow and it ended, especially in 2017. The adoption was getting pretty crazy. And of course, this age ended as well with a big crash. That is the 2021 bear market. We had that in the stock market and we had that with crypto. 2021 to 2028, that's where we are in right now. This age has the AI boom, and we can see that very clearly. AI suddenly, bam, pops out of nothing. At least that was my experience. It just pops out of nothing. We had years long talk about this. Suddenly it comes, and suddenly everyone is using a ChatGPT or other AIs, and it becomes kind of an extension for most people, right? It becomes an extension in the sense that we are getting kind of dependent on it with certain questions. With maybe certain, especially with workforces as well, even till the point that AI will take over a lot of jobs, and this will probably continue as well. Society is transforming. I wrote it down as well because this is something that I personally really see. It is absolutely obvious that society is very polarized. Polarized is the right word for this. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a very strong opinion. The people with an opposite opinion are suddenly not worth. They don't carry any value. People really lost the connection with one and another. This is something that I feel is really true. And I think also is part of the process that we are going through as a collective humanity, collective society. But it's undeniable that society is really changing. It's really changed When you look at it, when you probably were a teenager, or maybe like 10, 20 years ago, how was society then? How were you hanging out with your friends? How is it going now? What are people thinking on the street? What is the vibe on the streets? Are people talking with each other? Are people a little bit hostile against each other? Do people trust each other? What is going on? That's also one thing I really feel. But let me know in the comment section when you experience that as well or not. It's like people don't really trust each other anymore. People have lost themselves, has lost the connection to themselves, but it also have lost the connection to one and another. Maybe because of the internet, because of the entertainment industry, because of everything just reached an extreme. But like I said, I think that's part of this, this process that we are going through as well. So what are some things that we normally see before a Jubilee? What is some things that we can actually see, or maybe even in all of these Shemitah cycles? Well, we have an economy that is being very much overstretched. Well, we had that, for example, in 2000 and 2001, the dot-com bubble. Right, the internet companies very much overstretched to one side, to the upside, eventually to collapse. Political system are losing their legitimacy, and this is really true right now. Right, a lot of times when you look at political systems right now, I think many people they don't trust the current systems in the world, because what have they caused? They've caused a lot of problems in this time and age. Right, we suddenly see through it like, whoa, they are not that beneficial for humanity. They are not really in place to protect us. They are sometimes more in place to protect a certain group of people. Right now we are waking up and we are losing trust in these systems. If I'm wrong about this, let me know in the comment section, but this is my personal experience. People feel trapped by debt and system. Also very true. Many people have extreme amounts of debts. They are running in this hamster wheel, they're running in the rat race, sometimes having multiple jobs, going into depressions, something that we are seeing very much in our society right now as well. People feel really trapped. Myself, somewhat included. I can move around how I want, but I also sometimes definitely mentally feel trapped. Because the current systems in this world, and I can make a very small example, for example, the supermarket is not serving me in the way that I want to be served. And that's not necessarily that I'm like this VIP or like want a VIP treatment or whatsoever. No, sometimes I just want normal food. Without pesticides, without these chemicals on it, without seed oils, without mass production, and it's very difficult to find. You can find it, but you have to look for it, and you got to pay for it as well. So this can also be a form of feeling trapped, although you're not exactly trapped. But still, we still have passports, we still have a lot of systems we have to abide by in order to move around on this planet. That will also change, in my personal opinion, especially the passports. I'm not talking about a chip in everyone, no. But this system will change as well, because it's just not working. We are not the property of somebody else. We are our own property, or sovereignty, hope that is good English, needs to come back, and it will come back. And therefore we need this big shaking. Another thing is nature, Mother Earth, screams for renewal. Well, this is something that we are seeing right now a lot, is that volcanoes suddenly erupt. And we are seeing floods in many parts of the world as well, more than in the past, if you ask me. So what is the whole purpose of this Jubilee? Well, I already said it a little bit. The purpose is for nature to be restored, and we are part of that nature. We as humans are part of this nature, although we do not realize that. We always think as Mother Earth as something separate from us. It's not separate from us. We are also in the system. Therefore, structures that we are built that are not based on truth, that are not beneficial for humanity in the longer term time frame, will always sooner or later collapse. Everything that's built on lies will sooner or later collapse. It can stand for some time. People can be manipulated and deceived to believe in something, but it will not stand forever. And that's why this is such a special time, because in this time it is collapsing. So it's actually something to party over and to celebrate. Land is redistributed and slaves are going free. Imagine if you build a system, right? Let's say you build this physical prison system, right? And it cannot, it could just run forever. That would be crazy, right? There should be some mechanism built in nature that breaks down existing structures, creates space for new ones. Otherwise, you could get a dystopian world. This slaves go free, guys, is also very important. Whether we realize it or not, and not everyone realizes it, I have a respect for you as well. But this is then, again, my personal belief. We have been slaves. We are still slaves. We have been slaves for crazy amount of years. We are being treated like a commodity. Like I made another video on this channel, all light or your light is not a commodity. I personally believe that the universe is created from in to out rather than from out to in. We are led to believe that the universe and the reality that we are living in is created from out to in. That we are the victim of external circumstances, well, it's actually the other way around. Which means that you and me and everyone on this planet has an equal amount of authority in this universe. So when one has more authority over another, that is a disbalance. That should not work. That's not truth. Again, my personal opinion. Now we are going to talk about, guys, how the year's going to look, right? So we already had a little bit of an idea about the craziness of the world that we are living in right now, how from the early 90s or the late 80s, we saw the introduction of technology, people starting to disconnect from each other, they're becoming more into the screen, you have more entertainment, people are, they're getting less connected to the world. Then suddenly comes AI, we have a corrupt monetary system that is suppressing the people in a kind of enslavement. And this is getting tighter and tighter, the chains are getting tighter and tighter, we all feel that. And we all experience that probably, or many of us experience that in our day-to-day life. Not necessarily that you can't move, but that the amount of volume that you can breathe is less big than that you could breathe 10 years ago, if you understand my analogy in that. So right now we are at the end of 2025, going into 2026. What will happen in 2026? I don't know. All right? I just wrote some things down, what I think would fit the timeline, but I don't know. I don't know what is exactly going to happen, but I surely do believe that we are in this process, and I surely believe that in 2028 and 2029, we are going to see the big reset. And that's not the reset where all the powers are talking about. It is a reset brought by Mother Nature, not brought to you by the powers in play. They know about this. That's why they try to steer it into a different direction. And that's why it's so important for you and me to see that, because once you see it, you can steer in another direction with your free will. This is going to be important because in this time, you have to use your free will. You have to use your free will to choose what you want, what you desire. Nobody can make that choice for you. You got to make that choice. But that choice can be made or can be led by the heart, or it can be led by some ideas, or that's up to you. But that's why it's so important that you choose your direction, and whichever direction that you choose shall be respected. It should be respected, and it will be respected. 2026. corporate bankruptcies increase. So we're already seeing this, especially in the West. People don't want to work anymore. People are sick of the 9-to-5 jobs. AI is taking jobs, is taking over jobs. A lot of industries in the West we don't actually need anymore. People are waking up to the true intentions of these industries, and that will bring a lot of volatility to a lot of industries and to a lot of companies. So I believe we are going to see very soon the first bankruptcies coming. Pressure on fiat currencies, of course, this is because we are living in a debt-based system. So the pressure on fiat currencies is going to increase, and is going to increase exponentially. So we have the fiat currencies, right, which is being inflated with newly generated money that has to increase because the system works on the debt. But because that has to increase, the value of this money is decreasing and decreasing. But this process doesn't go like this, it goes like this, exponential. And we are already very far in that exponential. That's why I think crypto will become a very big player in this whole cycle, because there is nothing else except gold and silver, but there will be nothing else outside of crypto that can help, or that can be a flight for liquidity for the fiat currencies that are going to collapse. Fiat currencies are going to collapse. They are a ticking time bomb, and I think it happens sooner rather than later. Social tensions, we are seeing that. Parallel finance is here as well. That is crypto. Crypto being together with the regular financial system. So we have the US dollar, right? We have the euro, but crypto is already taking over. People have these cards where you pay your crypto, you buy things with crypto. It's already becoming more mainstream. It will just become more and more until it reaches a tipping point, and the pressure on fiat currencies is going to be so big that they are shaking and almost collapsing, or maybe collapsing pretty quick. When that happens, all of that money will search flight for safety. Of course, a lot of it will go to gold and silver, but a lot of it will go to crypto, because gold and silver you can't bring with you. Of course, you will have third parties that will hold it for you. Maybe we'll get some new currency based on silver. I'll definitely see that as a possibility. But the money in the current financial system will seek refuge in commodities and crypto. That's what I think. People shift away from old money because they all smell that the old money is actually worth nothing. 2026, 2027. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting year, because what happens in 2026 and 2027 can, I mean, like I said, I'm not really sure when exactly all of this will play out, but what I think going to happen in 2027 can happen in 2026, but it will be in this timeline. So we are seeing liquidity flies to safety. So here we are already seeing a lot of debasement of the fiat currencies. And of course, the debt is increasing. The debt needs to be paid off. One way to pay off the debt is to devalue the dollar, because the debt is in dollar. When you devalue the dollar, the debt becomes less high. So in all cases, I definitely think that the debasement of the dollar and the collapse of the fiat currencies is already in play. We are in the late stage of that cycle. Public sentiment is enough. People are sick of it. People really don't want it anymore. They want change. They want a fair system. They want something else. I think this is really coming. People are really getting sick of it. You can already see it right now in the society. There's these two groups. There's a big polarity between these groups, but both of these groups are basically sick of it. They don't want to stand across one another. Even though they have different arguments, they have one thing in common. They are sick with the way the world goes right now. That's maybe one way how they can connect with each other. 2027 to 2028. This is going to be leading up to that moment where we are going to see that reset. And this is going to be a crazy period because everything will increase, right? We're going to see an increase in tech. We are going to see an increase in AI. And maybe there are these things like chips coming, Mark of the Beast kind of stories. This is, again, very important for us to be smart in what we choose. So what I think, guys, is really important, delete all your convictions of the past, that something is not allowed or whatever. Delete that. Think from a blank page. What do I think is right? What do I think is the right thing to do? Choose for that without thinking about the consequences, because there might be some consequences, but you have the right to choose what your heart desires and what you think is the right thing to do. You have that right. Don't forget that. Right? So when they come with like CBDC, but then your money is like has a certain expiration date. Okay, you will get $500 per month, maybe $1,000 per month, but it has an expiration date. You cannot buy meat, you cannot buy this and that, you get maybe a chip. When something like that happens, feel for yourself, do I want this? Do I want to give up my freedom into a system where I can then do my groceries in the way that I used to do it? Maybe a little bit different because I cannot take all the products. And if I look at the system and maybe in 10 years the system could change and maybe suppress me even more, do I want to do this? This is a very important question you got to answer yourself, because if the answer is no, then don't do it. You have the right to say no. People don't realize that they have the right because you are the co-creator. You are an equal of anyone on this universe. Which means nobody can tell you what to do unless you give them that power, unless you are bending and saying, okay, you know what, I'll listen to you. That's all up to you. That's your free will. That's all up to everyone, individual choice. But just reminding you right here that you have a choice. Because you carry something within that is so important, you are a co-creator. So you choose to give that away or you choose to keep it to yourself and to steer your own direction. That is your choice to make. I know what I do. So then we have, what else do we have? Normally the year before the Shemitah year, and in this case the Jubilee year, normally the year before is the year where the markets really expand, right? So when we look at crypto, for example, when we look at silver and gold commodities, when we look at the wealth transfer, so that the wealth is being transferred to a different group of society from the structures that are right now in place, most likely, at least what we've seen in previous times, most likely that happens the year before the Jubilee starts. So 2027, 2028. Makes a lot of sense to me. Do I want to miss to be not positioned right now? No, I am positioned right now because I believe that I don't know exactly what is going to happen, but I know that these things are collapsing and I know that the flight to crypto is coming, so I'm positioning myself right now already where I know the wind will be coming. And maybe this will experience a little bit of turbulence left and right. That's fine, I can sit through it because I know it's going to happen anyway. And I either got to have a little bit more patience or I got to miss the boat. I'm not going to do that. You can play it smart, be very much diversified, and late in the process, move your funds. So when you see certain opportunities, move your funds. That's again all up to everyone individually. Like I said, I'm positioned, and I think for me it feels good to be positioned. 2028, 2029, it all collapses. The old structures are gone. wealth ownership models are being reinvented. The way that we know wealth right now, in the sense of like this person had this amount of money, this person had that amount of money, I think that will all go away. There are going to be new models for wealth distribution and what is real wealth. Right? Wealth is not really defined anymore in this new world, I believe, with possessions. Right? It's also your mentality, your morals, your integrity, your authenticity. These are part of your wealth too. Who are you as a person? Who have you become? Who are you building? Like, what is housing inside of you? Who is inside that body? That's very important. That's also a currency. What is your perspective on life? These are very important understandings, because your perspective on life will eventually also determine your external reality. So if you have a very rich perspective on life, you will have a very rich, in the terms that we know it right now, rich external world. I hope that makes sense. If you have a very loving view of the world, you will have a very loving external, reflecting that back to you. So wealth is going to be different than how we know it right now. Wealth will be more about having a possession. You know, it's about how you create. How can you create? What type of feeling state do you carry with you on a daily basis? What are you vibrating? Okay, that sounds maybe a bit strange, but I hope you understand my point. And this is also important. Society seeks restoration and connection. We've gone through a crazy age. We've gone to this age where we had talking for myself, very nice youth, very beautiful friends, slowly becoming disconnected, slowly getting into a sort of loneliness state. Many people experiencing that loneliness state. I can feel myself in there as well, partly. In that state, you are going to see things differently. You're going to see connection with somebody else as something very valuable. It's more valuable than money. And this is also what's going to become more the zeitgeist of the new time, right? Restoration, good intentions, integrity, connection with one another are all going to be more important than having some cash. Genuine relief and change of perspective. There will come a moment where society just goes like, it's all over, guys. It's all over. We've been through it. We did it. The world has been going through a very hard time. We have been learning a lot. We've been going through this process of being enslaved, being entrapped in these illusions, waking up to these illusions, seeing the illusions crumble, being scared of it, going through that feeling, getting out of it as the boy that is nothing left anymore, laying on bed or sitting in his living room with nothing left and thinking, what should we do now? That space that comes in that moment, that space, that is so important to use to build the new world. And how you want to build the new world, I'll leave that all up to you guys. I'll make some videos about it in the future. There are so many nice initiatives that we could do, that you can think of, but I'll let the imagination to you. So how you want to build a new world, what type of structures you like there, how would you like to treat people, how would you like to interact with people, how would you like to set up a business. I would say businesses focusing on profit are not the ones that are going to prosper. It is the businesses with integrity, with good intentions, with wanting humanity to stand in their true power. Those are the ones that are really going to thrive. Guys, that was it for this long video. Let me know what you think about it down below in the comment section. Let's discuss a little bit about it. Leave a thumbs up if you like this video. And subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more about this. I'm going to talk more about this. I'm also going to talk about new structures, new industries. I have been doing a lot of brainstorming about it already. It's going to be so important to work already to that new world, or to think about it, imagine about it, right? We need to envision it, imagine it, because that will bring hope. It will help with that energy, and it will help through going through the fear. Guys, thank you all for watching. I wish you all a beautiful day and I hope to see every single one of you in the next video. Bye bye.